Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Triple N Media. I am Dr. Nik Nikam. Today we are going to talk about morning breakfast, bread. Here I have my plate. I don't know if you can see it. Here's my plate with my toast. And I have a glucose biscuit here to demonstrate the importance of breads, their carbohydrates, and their effect on our blood sugar level. Along with that, I have some nice green tea here. Cheers. And this is an ordinary bread that we get from the grocery store, but it is specially processed, and I'm going to tell you how you can do that with the bread that you like to keep the glycemic index low. Wait a minute, did I say glycemic index? What is glycemic index? So let's look at what glycemic index is to begin with. When we eat glucose, it raises the blood sugar level just like this, a brisk upstroke, and the level stays and eventually it comes down. And the level reached by glucose is considered as 100% for reference. And let's say now we switch over to my bread, and if I eat this bread, what is the glycemic index? How high does the blood sugar level go up compared to eating just glucose? And that's what is the main focus of this topic's presentation. Most breads, as you know, are made up of large amount of carbohydrates, maybe a gram of fat and a gram of protein, but the rest of it is carbohydrates, which is going to raise your blood sugar level high and also keep it sustained for a while, which leads to increased insulin production and all the associated problems related to that. And this is particularly true in patients with diabetes. Now we know what a glycemic index is. What should be the normal glycemic index for a given food product that we eat? Generally speaking, we would like to see the glycemic index below 50 or 60. Anything that is close to 70, 80, 90, that's considered high glycemic index. For example, most of the breads that we get in the market, like any bread, I'm not just speaking on this particular bread, the glycemic index is like 71. Plus, it has 70 calories, a gram of fat, and 390 milligrams of sodium. That's another important thing we need to keep in mind. 13 grams of carbohydrates, 1 gram of fiber, and 2 grams of protein. All right, there are various kinds of breads available in the market, and they say if you take a whole wheat bread, it's better, or if you take a keto bread, it's even better. It all depends upon what your aim is, because not all breads fit every individual. You like certain kind of bread and you want to see how you can maximize the effect of that bread on the glucose elevation level. You want to keep the glucose elevation level and keep the glycemic index low, and that's what we're going to focus upon. Looking at all these various kinds of breads, all of them have pretty much similar numbers. There may be a few changes in the calories, glycemic index. Here is an article that was published in the PubMed. This is a National Library of Medicine, where they looked at the effect of eating the bread fresh without toasting it. The second group was consisting of people who ate the bread that was taken out of the refrigerator and toasted. Then the third group was the one where the bread was actually put in the freezer and it was defrosted and toasted. And what was the glycemic index? The fourth group was frozen, defrosted, and eaten as such. So they looked into 4 different groups to look at how the glycemic glucose levels rise in these various groups. So here's and here are the results of the 4 different groups I talked about and their effect on blood glucose level in the body. The first group was fresh white bread. They didn't toast it, they just ate the bread. Their glucose level increased to like 253 millimoles per minute per liter. Anyway, just look at this round number, that should be good enough. Then when the bread was toasted, it dropped to 193. All right. When the bread was frozen and defrosted and eaten without even toasting it, the number was 173 millimoles. And the best result was when the bread was frozen, defrosted and toasted. Then the rise in sugar level was 157. Now let's take the top one and the bottom one. If you just eat the white fresh bread, then your level is 253. Whereas by freezing, defrosting and toasting it, you could dramatically drop the level by almost like 30–40%. So that's the key message from this presentation. So whatever bread you like to eat, and that's the point that I want to emphasize, whatever the bread you like to eat, you can eat that and still reduce the rate at which the glucose level rises in your body by freezing it, defrosting it, and then toasting it. There are several advantages to freezing this bread in the freezer. One, you can just make small units of 2 or 4 slices, depending upon how many slices you eat, depending on the family size, and put them into small freezer Ziploc bags and put them inside so that the bread will stay fresh for 1 week or 2 weeks. And if you're a single person and you take a loaf with 24 slices and you eat only 1 slice, as you know, it's going to take more than 2 weeks to finish it and the bread may get spoiled. But by freezing it, you are preserving the bread. Number 2, the bread stays fresh while it is frozen. And when you take the bread, defrost it and toast it, it will be fresh like the day one you bought it. So there are several advantages to freezing the bread, defrosting it and toasting it. In that way you can use every slice of your bread fresh and tasteful. People may say, well, if you're concerned about glycemic index, why don't you go for keto bread? And there are various companies that make keto bread. I just picked up one of these from Google Images, and here a keto bread has a glycemic index of 38, 35 calories, half the calories compared to the regular white bread. And it has 10 grams of carbohydrates, 9 grams of which are fibers, which is like, for example, most of the reduction in the calories comes from reducing the carbohydrates or the sugar content of the bread. And the protein, it has 6 grams of protein. It all sounds good until you taste this bread. I tasted this bread and I tell you, this is my personal experience, it tastes like sawdust. It is nothing like the regular bread that you relish at breakfast buffets or at home or just before going to school. This is high in fiber, and as a result it tastes something different, which we may have to get used to. If you have severe diabetes, it may be your good choice to get used to this bread. And what you can do is you can use the same principle which I talked about, and that is to freeze this bread in small packets, defrost them and toast them, and hopefully you can further reduce the glycemic index and keep your blood sugar level down and still use the bread that is appropriate for you and the bread that you like to eat. So ladies and gentlemen, there are various ways to keep your bread frozen, and as I said, my idea is to take these small sandwich freezer bags and put 2 or 4 slices and put them there so that you can just take out the units you need and then use them as necessary. There are various ways people can freeze their breads. One of the things you can do is to put them in small packets. That's what I would recommend. Take this sandwich type, bigger size freezer bags, put 2, 4 or 6 slices and pack them individually so that they become useful. I would avoid doing this unless you're taking the whole thing out for a party All right, so here is another example of, I mean, this is probably coming from a storage place, and you can just keep them in small units. That will help to keep everything fresh. There are various charts that are available, and if you look at all the various kinds of breads, bagel plain has a glycemic index of 33, white rice 30, white rice 38, and the highest one is white bread 80, and baked potato 85. If you use all these precautions and eat keto bread and all this, and you go to a restaurant and order a baked potato, everything loaded, then you got problem. So ladies and gentlemen, this is there's another important point I want to bring out, and that is you don't necessarily need to defrost the bread. You just take out the bread, put it on the side for 5 minutes, it will automatically defrost because the temperature difference is so much compared to the freezer and the room temperature, but then it will be ready for toasting. Once you have just put the bread on the side for 5 minutes, you just toast it, and then now we are ready to eat this one. Tastes good, along with a sip of 0-calorie green tea. Yeah, you can get green tea and you add some sweetener. Oh man, I am having a wonderful breakfast. How about you? Give it a try. You have nothing to lose. You can select the type of bread you like, freeze them in small units, take them out, put them on the side for 5 minutes, then toast them, and combine that with your favorite drink, coffee, tea, chai, latte, whatever it is. Okay. I hope you got some important information. Sorry, I shouldn't be talking while I got my bread, but I love this bread. Let me finish. Okay, I'm ready. So whatever is your favorite bread, use this technique, which has been proven by medical scientific experiment, and it's freezing it, defrosting it, and toasting it, that will help to keep the freshness of the bread. It will reduce the glycemic index, and it will taste good. Thank you so much for watching this presentation, and I will see you in the next presentation. Bye.